The night she left is seared into my memory, a perpetual burn that refuses to scar over. It was raining. Cliché, I know, yet fitting. She didn't even wait until the kids were asleep. She stood in the living room, suitcase in hand, her eyes distant, already gone. I remember our youngest, Daniel, a tiny shadow clinging to her leg, his voice raw with fear. "Mommy, where are you going?" She merely looked at me, a stranger in her own home, and said, "I can't do this anymore. I need to live my truth." Her truth, apparently, was a man named Eric from her yoga class. She left that night without a backward glance. No goodbyes, no whispered apologies, no flicker of remorse. Just silence, punctuated by the cold click of our front door shutting. I stood there, a monument of stunned disbelief, holding the broken pieces of what used to be our family. There was no time for collapse. 3 kids, no warning, no mother. Just me, facing the harsh, undeniable reality that the woman I loved had chosen someone else. The first year was an open wound. Rachel, our oldest, retreated into herself, refusing to speak for months. Jake, barely 10, channeled his anger into schoolyard fights. Daniel cried himself to sleep more nights than I could count, his small sobs echoing in the silence she left behind. And me? I worked 2 jobs, my hand perpetually busy packing lunches, braiding Rachel's hair, helping with homework, all while my own tears fell silently in the shower. I plastered a forced smile on my face every damn day. People whispered. Some blamed me. Others offered pity I didn't want. But no one truly understood. No one saw how desperately I fought to keep our home standing, while the woman who was supposed to be my partner played house with a borrowed life. She never called, not once. No birthday cards, no hollow apologies, not even a check for child support. It was as if we were a forgotten chapter, hastily ripped from the book of her life. But I didn't let her absence define us. I raised my children with an unwavering blend of love, discipline, and unflinching honesty. I taught them not to hate her, but I never lied about what happened either. They grew up knowing their mother had chosen herself over them, and still, they blossomed into incredible people. Rachel became a dedicated nurse. Jake opened his own mechanic shop, his hands always dirty, his spirit fiercely independent. Daniel, sweet, once fragile Daniel, found his strength in the army. I couldn't have been prouder. I had done it. We had done it. Without her. So when, 21 years later, I opened the door and saw her standing there, hair silvered with time, eyes carrying the weary weight of years, a suitcase in hand, just like before, my first instinct wasn't anger. It was confusion. Then coldly I asked, why now? She didn't answer immediately. She just stared at me, as if I were the one who had disappeared. I made a mistake, she finally whispered, her voice cracking with the kind of sorrow I had once yearned for, years ago, back when I craved closure, when I desperately needed answers, when I cried alone at 2 in the morning, wondering what I'd done wrong. But now I felt nothing but a profound, almost unsettling stillness. The kids were all grown. My life was stable, peaceful, and here she was, attempting to exhume a past she had buried, as if 2 decades of silence were merely a fleeting inconvenience. Eric died 3 months ago, she continued, her hands trembling. I've been alone ever since. I thought maybe we could talk. She looked past me, as if expecting to be welcomed back into the house. Our house, like no time had passed. I didn't move. I didn't open the door any wider. I simply looked at her, at the deep lines etched on her face, the bags under her tired eyes, and I thought about every single moment she had missed. Every scraped knee, every birthday candle blown out, every proud graduation. Rachel was the first to hear about her reappearance. She was livid, not sad, not curious, just furious. She doesn't get to come back after 21 years and pretend she still matters, she declared over the phone. Jake didn't say much, just made a low sound in his throat and muttered, "She's got guts." I'll give her that. Daniel, always the peacemaker, simply asked, "Are you okay, Dad?" None of them wanted to see her. None of them asked where she'd been or how she was. They had built their lives without her. We all had. And now she was here, acting as if time owed her a second chance. "I want to get to know them again," she said, standing in my front yard like she hadn't torched our world 2 decades ago. I want to make amends. I laughed, not because it was funny, but because the sheer, breathtaking gall was staggering. You don't get to want things now, I told her, my voice flat. You gave up that right. Still, a part of me couldn't just slam the door. I wasn't that man. I invited her to sit on the porch. I made her tea. I listened. She recounted how her life with Eric had fallen apart, how the freedom she once craved had become a lonely cage, how he never wanted kids, how she missed hers, how regret clawed at her every night. But the torrent of her confessions changed nothing. I looked her directly in the eye and said, "Those children ceased to be yours the moment you walked away." And I meant it. She had walked out on them. And now she wanted to walk back, and simply because her new life hadn't turned out the way she planned. The days that followed were strange. A quiet, but not the good kind. The false calm after a hurricane, where the devastation is hidden beneath a deceptively intact surface. Rachel messaged me again. She better not come near me or my kids. Jake didn't even bother pretending to be civil. Tell her if she wants a reunion, she should go dig through the ashes of what she burned. And Daniel, sweet Daniel, the only one who still called me every Sunday like clockwork, gently said, "You did everything, Dad. You were both parents. She doesn't deserve a place in our story anymore." And he was right. I thought about every school event I'd attended alone. Every night I'd sat by Rachel's bed as she cried over a mother she barely remembered. The way Jake had stopped talking altogether for almost a year after she left. And how I used to lie awake, wondering if one day she'd regret it. Now I knew she did. But regret isn't a key. It doesn't unlock doors to the past. It's a solitary confinement, not a gateway to absolution. It just reminds you of all the ones you slammed shut. One afternoon, she left a letter on the porch. No knocking, no conversation, just an envelope tucked under the doormat like a fragile peace offering. Inside was a photo. Us, years ago, before the betrayal, before the pain. She'd written on the back, "I'm sorry for everything. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I just wanted to say goodbye properly this time." That night, I stared at that photo for hours. Not because I missed her, but because I didn't. That version of her, the woman I married, had died that night. She chose someone else over the life we built. The woman who stood at my door weeks ago was a stranger, and I owed that ghost nothing. Not my time, not my kids, not my heart. A month later, Daniel and I stood outside, grilling steaks in the backyard. The grandkids were running through the sprinkler, their laughter echoing through the warm air. Rachel and her husband were on their way. Jake had texted earlier, "Don't start the beer without me." And in that moment, surrounded by the family I raised, the family she left, I felt a quiet peace. Not the fleeting truce after a tempest, but the deep, abiding calm that only comes from knowing you've weathered the fiercest of storms and emerged whole. I'd carried the weight of her betrayal for years, and now, finally, I'd set it down. She chose to walk away into her solitary sunset. I chose to walk forward, bathed in the dawn of a life I built, and I never once glanced back. If this raw and emotional journey resonated with you, consider subscribing to Echo Tales for more profound and unique stories. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below and share what struck you most about the narrator's path to peace.